Dread Mob. So I personally like Dread Mob a lot. I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea for whatever reasons. Maybe because you blow yourself up, maybe because you think the walkers suck and it was getting shot. But bear with me as I explain some of this because there's some people are super into Dread Mob and are trying to kind of straddle the line of being a meme and actually getting games wins, right? And I'm one of those people that think you can actually win some pretty solid games with Dread Mob, especially with these Katans coming out. So next thing we're going to talk about here is the cunning tactics for Dread Mob. Of course, absolutely Lootas plus shock attack gun plus get finder goggles for ignore cover. The ultimate Overwatch, well, second, I guess our second best over maybe, arguable, debatable, right? Debatable between tactical brigades, flash gets brick, and Ludas with shock attack gun with get finder goggles and objectives for our best Overwatch type of unit, right? Because the shock attack gun really goes off on the Overwatch for them. That being said, typically like to keep it to one Luda brick, right? One Luda brick. Haven't really been finding utility or reliability in the second one. So if you're going for this Luda type of unit, just go ahead and bring one for this combo. If you like to bring more shock attack guns and you think that maybe you want to put them on your Tankbuster for get Flander goggles, very much in favor of your Ludas. That way they actually function for their low AP. Then we go into the Killa Kans. Now, I don't think Killa Kans are the only walkers you can use. I think you could definitely go into Def Dreads right now. I like their new data sheet ability for doing mortal wounds. I like giving them at least 3 guns, sometimes 4, taking advantage of custom Mega Blastas and using the nuke like we like to talk about. So check out the videos with that when we talk about a Death Dread. So I think that's quite viable as well with the stratagems here. The big Titanic walkers. If you are going to run duplicates, I seen someone earlier talking about that in chat. Where's that crazy git? There was one of these crazy gits up here that was talking about running multiple Titanics. I think if you're gonna run multiple, I mean, if you're gonna Titanics, I would lean into multiple, right? Someone right here is talking about running three Gorks, right? 3 Gorks, maybe 2 Morks, stuff like that. Really stacking that toughness and amount of wounds could also have some viability. That being said, I think there you are, you get you too. I think that being said, I think Killa Kans are really where it's at when we move forward, right? When you look at their multi-phase potential. Now, I know some people are like, man, Wild Tactics, I really think they're too freaking slow. Trust me with the repetition and practice. Of course, I don't know what terrain you're playing on. So if you're playing on WTC, it might not be able to fit them anywhere. But between the top competitive players who play Dread Mob, the world's players who play Dread Mob, the people who have been running it consistently to figure it out, the one thing that they eventually come to consensus on is Killa Kans are extremely legitimate here because the amount of damage 3 in volume and even damage 4 that they bring in a way that the orcs literally have no other access to. When you speaking of the Necrons right now, where there are a lot of T6, but they're also sitting at a lot of 3-4 wounds, and maybe they have invulns, maybe not. A lot of the time, Killa Kans between their multi-phase potential, even if it's one big 6-man unit on the go turn, between shooting, advancing, charging, re-rolling hits, giving themselves +1 to wound, +1 to damage and shooting, and or giving themselves +2 strength, +1 damage in melee, means they can get up to strength 11 and 4 damage punches in combat, meaning they can do 4 damage punches, rocket blasts into vehicles and enemies, re-rolling the hit to offset the fact that typically orc shooting sucks. So Killa Kans are super legit, and I think they are problematic. If you look at, Vitrix Guard, they typically are going to be like, well, I have access to great armor saves and all this stuff. Yes, but because they are now 3 wounds each, it means each time they do fail a save, they're getting just straight up picked up. And in response, they are only getting up to T6 if they are not already oathed. They really aren't blending through the entire Killa Kan unit either, unless it's like a Kalagar specific unit. So I think their Killa Kans, all in all, are pretty sick. But a lot of the time, I think is the problem too, is people don't bring enough grots to support them. So check out the content I did on them more so, because I think people, if you're not having utility with them, you might need more grots to screen them, to use a reactive move to get in the way of them, to escort them, whether it's a 10-man's or maybe even 22-man size. So trust me, Killa Kans are legit. Like I said, plenty of damage 3 on these lists, whether you're looking at Mek Guns, you're looking at Tankbusters, Killa Kans. And then you have the Lootas, you have the shock attack guns, you have the custom Mega Blasters from the Spanners. There's just so much damage 3 and 2 flying around on these lists a lot of the time that if people do lean into 3 wound model stuff or Necron style bodies or Tau style bodies or anything that's like I'm just gonna live off 4 up saves or 3 up armors, 4 bendable 3 up armors, Necron, Dread Mob can really put a wrench in those kind of units. I do very much like Zod. Again, if you are having problem with keeping the can safe, a lot of the time it could be Zod needs to be there so to kind of deter the enemy's most mislead type of unit taking the initiative from the Killa Kans. So a lot of time I do like Zod, but you can totally get away without bringing him. Mek Guns. Now, if we're talking Mek Guns, there's a couple of different approaches here. Of course, the funny, humorous meme thing that we could do here is track the cannons. You re-roll the hits. You have anti 2+ dev wounds into stuff that flies, and you just start picking up units like that. But it is quite unreliable for the amount of shots. So another option we see a lot of the time are smasher guns, where you take smasher guns and you can use big shells on them. Personally, I didn't like the volume with that. So unexpectedly, the best options might end up sometimes being the bubble chucker, right? Bubble chucker has random, what you're gonna actually get as your shots, but because you can re-roll hits, and you can use big shells for bigger gets, it typically means that you can still lean into a lot of different profiles that you're damaging with these Mek Guns. So I'm a big fan. Not bring spamming them, though some crazy people do. Shout out to Garth. Then we go stompas. Stompas go crazy in certain weird situations. So if you're dealing with these new birds, for example, on the greater demons, those birds have nothing on the stampa. Stampa will delete 2 of them at once and they'll never appear again and then just pick everything else up. Great unclean ones cannot endure that, especially now that they don't have the 4-up feel no pain guy. So if you're just trying to play big stompy stuff with Titanics and Stampas, go ahead. I think actually right now can really work. If people decide they're bringing a bunch of Vindicators because Vindicators are good at the Katans, well, Vindicators have, really crap range. So if they don't get close enough to actually shoot the Stampa and they go for a Gork, for example, or a Mork, because I like to use Mork, my Morks as bait. If they put a Mork up and you put them into range and people change their Titanic Vindicators out for that, well, at that point, Stampa can go off. So it's pretty funny. People always get surprised how much work a Stampa can do. And then we had Battleline Grots. I think this is always slept on. Bringing more bringing more Grot battle lines is good. I think even considering larger units now, you might give up calls, so I understand not doing it, but putting them in your backfield to screen your entire backfield could be one thing. So you force the call out if you don't bring Zod anyways, but then they can't really score it anyways. As well as Battleline Grots in the case of I have a bunch of these small units. They might be reactive moving to get in the way. They might just be more OC and scoring potential and stuff you have to kill and activate into while everybody's playing quite elite right now and they just don't even feel like killing these stupid Grots, especially on that wall turn when these Grots actually start charging into them and they're like, oh, I don't even want to. Oh, I got Grots in my shoes, right? And it's just people are like, I really want to kill those other big stuff, but you're throwing these stupid Grots in my face. So don't sleep on Battleline Grots. Then we have Tankbustas. Not typically super sold on Tankbustas and Dread Mob because as soon as they're -1 to win hit, they're not that appealing anymore. But because you're going for the redundancy factor of damage 3 and good AP, a lot of the time I still end up leaning into them with shock attack guns. So let's get into the list. That was I already did, that's the next one. This is the list. Excuse me. Bully Boys we're talking about next. This is the list. Where are you guys at? I see you guys in chat right now. Don't worry, you guys are asking questions. After I get through some more of these, we'll answer more questions as well. If they're super chats, of course, I'll answer them immediately. But to make sure I get through some of these videos, and this video is not 2 hours long, I'm gonna make sure I keep going. But thank you guys. Don't worry, I'll still answer and come back and read your comments. So we have the Dread Mob list that I'm looking at. So this was somewhat motivated by my favorite Dread Mob player that's in our community, our boy Collins, right? Collins out here playing Dread Mob for such a long time. And we built lists together on stream before where I shut it off and he's still running it and his list was already ahead of the game, very similar to what he was running and what I was running with a nice little twist from our preferences. So I explained my preferences and I think there's other good options as well. Yeah, like Tiger's saying, I think Dread Mob really does have some legs. So I'm not just pulling your legs here. Your stumpy orky legs. So straight off the bat, Three Big Macs with shock attack guns. I like that AP. I'm tired of you Space Marines. -4 AP. Get Finder goggles. When some of those stupid Tyrannofaxes jump out and they got a rupture cannon or a spear acid cannon, whatever it's called, and they decide they're gonna walk out to that middle objective and try to stat check you. That's when you just say Overwatch. Boom. I'm gonna use lethal here. Lootas, make it rain on you. Shock attack gun, boom, just take you out. And all of a sudden, you either one shot or completely crippled the enemy problematic unit. Of course, this is a good way to get around Armor of Contempt as well. If enemy unit moves onto objective and you overwatch them, boom, you can mess with them. So I love it. Then we have Zagrot Wartnaga. That's it for the leaders. Don't want to go too leader heavy on these lists a lot of the time. That's sometimes the thing I really like about Dread Mob. You don't always need to go leader heavy. So, of course, I got Zod there for my big unit of Gretchen. Then I have three minimum size units of Gretchen. Like I said, I try to bring more. There are arguments that you drop Zod and you bring just more small size units too. I totally think that's viable. Maybe fit a Snickrod in here instead of a Zod too. Then we have two trucks. Trying to keep it minimal. Don't think you need to go too crazy on the trucks. And people have questioned as well. What about a DACA wagon? Hypothetically, a single DACA wagon might be interesting where you poke it, of course, with the mech. But I don't typically find myself doing that with Dread Mob because I have so many other guns everywhere that I really just want these units that are within the vehicles to come out when it's actually time to shine. So we have two trucks, followed by two 5-man units of flash kits. A lot of the times, those can act as SWAT team members as well, or you can do leapfrogging where you have the big 10-man unit of looters in the truck. They pop out, stage up, then move out to the middle of the table so they can look at someone and find a good Overwatch target. In the meantime, things jump back into the trucks. So that's where the flash kits are. They also can act as like a reserve type of unit if you would enjoy that. Then we move to the big core of the list, right? People always take for granted how hard it is to really kill the cans and pick them up from the enemy perspective, especially when you have access to -1 damage. Now, I'm not saying they're going to endure the entire enemy army, right? I'm not saying they're not going to die. They are. And when it's actually when it's time for them to die and you expose them, they are going to take a big commitment, though. And in response, you should have other assets that are still awake, ready, alive to go. That's why you go redundant with a second can unit to continue to respond. Of course, you at least want one of these can units untouched on that go turn for the wall for the stacking of the strats that we talk about in the video where I break out how to use cans. And a lot of the time, you could also end up using the other can unit maybe as reserved post wall, or you keep it somewhere kind of staged up more safe to come in late game once enemy has already committed and done everything, and these cans work their way up the field. So I think that a lot of the time, if you're struggling where you're moving them, I would say just put them in reserves. Think about where to put them safely in the video when I broke that down and showed that as well, and hope you can help figure it out. But they completely shine when you're looking at re-rolling hits and doing the whole 1-2 shebang with them. Like I said, the Lootas go with the shock attack gun. Then we have the Mek Guns. So I brought the Mek Guns on here. If there is argument to just let the smasher guns be there for all these 3 damage shots going down the field, or the bubble, as I mentioned earlier. If you're using the bubble, there's a chance you might need big shells for bigger units. If you're using the tractor cannon just to the anti-fly potential, you really only need 1 CP just to reroll hits, and you still might get your result. So if you're dealing with big stinky Primarchs, or if you're dealing with these Skatans, maybe it's your local meta, you might be a crazy person. Bring the tractor cannons and make everyone feel bad. Nonetheless, I'm pretty back and forth on these Mech Gun profiles. 2 Tankbustas, and then that says a 6-man war biker, but I meant a 3-man, and then a 3-man war biker unit. That could be a storm biker unit. So nonetheless, this is kind of where I'm at. I did go for war bikers though, because as for the toughness, alongside the cans and the trucks and just all the other stuff on the field, it's a little bit more commitment to pick up the bikers than the Storm Boys. So here's currently more of my favorite and preferred style of Dread Mob list. If you want to incorporate Titanic models, of course you can do that as well. There's plenty of units that you can swap out, whether it's the Tankbustas and the Mek Guns for that degree. Try to find a way to maybe leave one truck off the list and you start bringing some walkers. Totally cool with that too. I've shown videos on that as well, and I think Titanic have a place to play as well. So don't lose hope, Ork players, if you want to run a more stompy style of Dread Mob list with Death Dreads and such, totally has feet as well. I just know based off my style and what I play, I would slightly lean more into this. That doesn't mean that I couldn't be swayed into dropping Tankbustas and bringing more big stompy guys, because I've had good success with them too. And like I said, do not sleep on the Stompa, because he can actually be real. Like someone was asking in the chat, I promise you, you can win games with them. Just check out our backlog. It definitely absolutely works. So if you want to use a Danuke, right? We have a video on how to use Death Dreads. So all the loadouts you're thinking about using for Death Dreads, you're going to advocate for in your comments, I have videos on those too. I completely agree with you in all those ways we can use them, whether it's four custom Mega Blasters, three custom Mega Blasters, four rockets, three rockets and a claw, four claws as a whole, three flamers and one claw. All these arguments, I agree with you on all of them. That's why I love playing orcs. And I think that they still have a place here in Dread Mob. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount, because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!